This may come as a big surprise, but I'm Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Yes, and tonight only Jar Jar Binks will be on the program.
No, please don't get Mike started on Jar Jar Binks.
We were just discussing the Star Wars franchise and what a snafu that was. But
how could they come back from Jar Jar saying that his car was stolen and the Medford police? Oh no! Wait a minute. No, that's another story.
Yeah, that's
how could they come back from saying that we had manipulated the video and that actually? No, that's another. No, how could they come back from the 80-20 defeat of the four junk ordinances and still look people in the eyes? How could Jar Jar Binks come back from that?
Yes, I don't know. And all you Jar Jar Binks lovers, here's the email address if you have complaints and you want to defend him. Yes.
Oh, great. Well, I'll tell you what, you send us an email about that and we're going to quote you and laugh.
Oh, listen, you know what? I'd be willing to bet that you do. So even if you have something to say about Jar Jar Binks, I mean, it's Star Wars. It's the season. It's coming out in a few days here. Write us an email, Bet County.
I say to Mike, when's it coming out? And I'm thinking, holiday season. Mike knows the exact date.
Well, I mean, for crying out loud, they're advertising the heck out of it. And, it's on every one of these talk shows, like, it's on incessantly. So
okay, well, speaking of being on incessantly, we're going to talk just a little bit more about some of the news that we've been reporting lately, because brother, we have been making some kind of impact with the county. You wanted us to watch them, we watch them, and now that we're telling them that we're watching them, they're not very happy. But that's a big surprise. That's the news of the day. They're not very happy. So we encountered just a little bit of that in today's meeting, but they've got a solution to this. And do you think their solution is that they're going to stop breaking the law? No. Okay, so let's set the stage a little bit. Constant viewers of this show already know this. So the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, they come down hard on the commissioners and say, you have broken the law. You've broken the law. You are lawbreakers. Okay. Well, the commissioners say, no, we're not. No. They really find us guilty as that stupid Dale Matthews. He keeps exaggerating things. Yes, they found them guilty. So we're going to let you know how we got to that point. Well, you would think that just even if they somehow think that nobody's found, they're not saying they didn't break the law. In fact, they've said we know what the law is. They're not saying they didn't. They're saying that the state never found them guilty of anything. That's a little bit different. They're not proclaiming their innocence. They're proclaiming that what's on the tape is not on the tape. We've seen this before. So what they did with the thing that we announced yesterday about Cheryl Walker, saying that we were out ahead of everybody in the news media on this, of course. And we're saying that Cheryl Walker has come up with a brilliant new idea. What is this brilliant new idea, Mike Jones?
A levy. That's it.
Yes. But
a number of levies.
Yeah, this is unlike any levy you've ever even heard of. Right. This isn't one levy. This is 4 little levies. Yeah, you're going to vote for it now, right?
4 or more. Yes. Yeah. You know what?
It's totally different, Mike. Come on now.
Yeah, no, come on. This is failure on a stick here. I mean, we're just another iteration of failure. You would think that all Cheryl would have to do is go back and look at her record over her tenure here. Has been nothing but failure. So I advised them quite a while ago to just start doing the opposite of what their inclination was, and they probably have success. And they're not taking that advice.
All right. To make it even worse, even though Simon Hare and who's that other guy, Keith Eck, have said that they were not going to be standing out there suggesting to people that they go with the levy, during the meeting that they had, and we played back the tape for you. And during the meeting that they had, Simon Hare had some advice about the strategy of how they could put this on the ballot and where it would go on the budget and what months it would be. And then Keith Hick joined in. This is joining in. This is not saying, hey, wait a minute, okay? Today at today's meeting, they said, well, obviously you're afraid of discussing subjects. We're not afraid of discussing subjects, but you said that you would not do this. And they're participating with Cheryl in cooking up a strategy about how to serve this dish to you with that fudge swirl in the middle. Have I got this wrong, Mike?
No, sounds pretty accurate to me. You know, but listen, this is what we've come to expect from these people. It's very, very clear that even though they try to, why they don't just think of this at the time, they know there's a camera looking at them. Why don't they just visualize the people, you know, the citizens watching them while they're saying that and go, hey, oh, wait just a minute. You know, I appreciate the time that you went through to come up with this plan, but let me just tell you, I'm not on board. I will not be on board. There's nothing that you could say that would get me on board because that's pretty much where they claim to be. You know.
Now, the other thing that they did is Cheryl actually tasked somebody on the commission, on the staff, to come up with these numbers. Your county tax dollars have been spent on Cheryl's scheme, and the others are joining in to give advice about how this can be done, to sell you yet again. This is exactly the same thing that happened a year ago, where Keith Hick assigned Jim Goodwin. Jim Goodwin is on the county staff, but he's a city councilor. And he assigned Jim Goodwin to look at, and he's a big proponent of taxes, and assigned Jim Goodwin to finding out how they could do this. And then they turned the details over to Cuffs, then said, oh, look, it's citizen initiated. You see the similarity this time, Mike?
Yeah. The only difference is that Cheryl is displaying her, what's the right way of putting it? Her political, she's 180 out of phase. What's the term that I'm looking for? No. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll just skip that point. She wants to, yes, something like that. She wants to be right out front and say, hey, she wants the commissioners to put it on the ballot.
Yes,
she wants to do.
She does,
because that skips the whole step of you know, going out and getting petitions signed and things of that nature. And she wants to bypass that and just put it on for the May ballot. And the other guys are like, no, we don't want anything to do. They don't want their fingerprints on this. They're fine with facilitating. Yeah, well, yeah, they don't see it that way. And this is, you know, when we do play back what Keith Hick said at today's meeting, that this is classic, because Dale called this ahead of time. He goes, you know, Keith's just going to go out of his mind. And I thought, oh, come on, really? You know, I mean, just a casual explanation of what took place back there would have been the right move for Keith. But no, he did flip his wig. He did, you know, he tried to go on. And the more he's denying that, you know, there was any involvement on his part in, you know, getting a levy going, the more you have to believe it, because, you know, methinks you just start protesting too much.
It was Simon who started off by saying something about, you, Mr. Matthews, you're obviously afraid of talking about things. Yeah, that's why we have this show on every night of the year. We're afraid of talking, Mike. So, well, I'm sorry you're so fearful about talking about things, Mike.
Well, here's the silly thing: is that
there's one.
Yeah, well, in this particular case, that, you know, Cheryl brought up the levy. And listen, they already know that they are not for a levy. Why couldn't they originate that into the conversation? No, they didn't originate that into the conversation. They immediately begin speaking strategy Or how can we take this? Why don't we just turn this over to this other group who can, carry the ball for us so that we don't have to have our fingerprints on it? That's what they engaged in, instead of just going, hey, listen, I thought I told you the other day, Cheryl, that, we're not on board with this. And that would have gone over, I think, a lot better and a lot more convincingly, for sure. Anyway,
but obviously they're on board with this. Obviously they're on board.
Well,
okay, so one of the questions I got today is, wait a minute. So I'm so grateful that there's somebody that's saying this. What you mean it wasn't on the agenda? No, it wasn't. This is a major new initiative. This is going to be the big thing that people are talking about in the May or November election, besides the election of people. And they're going to be saying, just all this hoopla. Imagine all the tens of thousands of dollars that's going to be spent on pushing this thing. It's a major initiative, and it's kicked off by the commissioners. And the others, when they could have stepped back and said, no, wait, let's not go there. No, they're strategizing. Simon was talking about how it could be worked into the final budget. Their final budget. And it wasn't on the agenda. Now, listen, again, commissioners are not allowed by state law to talk about such stuff unless they tell the citizens that they're going to talk about such stuff. They're not allowed to do that. That's breaking the law. They are supposed to let us know what they're going to talk about so that people can show up and sit there quietly and listen to them talk and not be able to say anything. But I mean, they're supposed to notify us. This is why they got in trouble with the state, finally, because they've been doing this for years. We've been complaining about it for years. And finally, somebody at the state went, I think we ought to do something about this. You think? So this was done in exactly the same way. It's not on the agenda. They spent county money. It's a major new initiative. They discussed strategy, and it's not even on the agenda.
Yeah, but you know why they don't care? Because right now, apparently, the OGEC is only dealing with ethics complaints as it has to do with executive sessions, and these people know that, so they don't care.
There is only one solution for us that the state suggests. We're not going to take this solution. You must gather up enough money, go to a court of law. Here, you're kidding me, right? And then you must bring them into a court of law and say you're breaking the law, and then get some judge to stop laughing, right? That's the only, so it's all the justice that money will buy. We're not going to do that. What we do is, this is our court. You are the judges. You know that they're breaking the law. We're telling you, you do have a chance to make a decision. You've got a chance coming up in May.
Yeah, you know what is interesting about the May ballot issue? Because they were discussing it in the back room, and then we discussed, well, why do Simon and Keith think that the November ballot would be better? I don't know why they think that, because typically the May ballot, you'd have less people voting in the May ballot. That would ultimately be better for them. But that's probably not going to be the case this year, because you're going to have presidential primaries and things on the ballot in May. So I think an equal amount of scrutiny is going to be given to both elections.
Does anybody think, as counterintuitive as this is, that Cheryl's plan is not, I put that kind of backwards. Cheryl's plan is, she obviously believes she's going to run into office. She's going to ride straight into office on this platform. Yeah, there are people who are telling her, this is what we want. We're begging you, Cheryl, you've got to do this. She's convinced by Dan DeYoung, who may also run. Well, he's going to run for something. And the mayor, you're going to be our hero if you do this. And oh, good, I'm going to be the hero.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, she's clearly politically tone deaf. But I think that what she believes is that if And here's another reason why she probably wants it to take place in May, because if she gets that thing passed in May and she's hailed as the hero that made the whole thing happen, she thinks those are the laurels that she can ride into office again on.
Yes.
But
that's the May primary. That's right.
Right. And I think she's completely wrong about that. But this would be interesting to see what spin is going to take place in May, right after the failure of these levies. And how is she going to spin that then she should be the people's choice after her signature levies again fail?
I don't think they're going to get it on the ballot in May. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, because this is all dependent. It's very difficult in the video to see her face. I was there and I saw her grit her teeth on it. Oh, not on the May ballot. See, if the commissioners agree with her, they'd be so stupid to do so. To put it on under their signature, then there's no need for any signatures. And they don't have enough people to go out and press this forward. You're kidding me, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, and wouldn't they have to have a signature process for each one of those?
Yes, they would.
Yes, that would be an entirely logistically, that would be really a big deal. But you know what? I mean, Cuffs didn't have any problem last year getting enough signatures. I think you just call in the same people and go, listen, we need you to sign another thing, you know.
Well, let's look at this thing about 4. Okay, 4. She's talking about 4 different little levies. Okay, and is that possible? Well, when they had the 4 junk ordinances that were Cheryl's idea, the citizens who rallied against that, they had 4 pieces of paper that needed to be signed, and they took out 4 pieces of paper and they got people to do that. And they successfully stopped this whole thing because of the 4 pieces of paper. When I sat down with the DOS group, those of you who watch this show a lot know what I'm talking about, Jim Dittmer, Ward Ockenden, and Jack Swift. Jack Swift was one of the authors of the last levy. He was one of the authors. And then he said, hey, I'm against levies, but he was one of the authors. Okay. When the DOS group, when I sat down with them and I said, my idea is, you can take it or leave it, is that we need to have a number of 3 sheets of paper to potentially recall not just Cheryl, but also Keith and also Simon. If you love all 3 of them, then you won't like me saying this. I said, I think that we should leave it up to the people to decide. They may decide to sign 0, 1, 2, or 3 of them. Recall all of them. Let the people decide. It was Ward Ockenden who got the most upset. And he said that I needed to leave that meeting and insisted that I get up and go, because they were not going to be opposing somebody like Simon Hare. They said, we can work with Simon Hare. Well, there's business deals and every other thing in the world involved with Simon Hare, and they were not going to leave it up to the people. And what I said to them before I went is, we don't need you 3 guys to be telling the citizens what to do. We should leave it up to them, because we already got 3 guys like that in the county commissioners. Who are you to decide to tell the people you don't have a choice? So it ended up being only Cheryl, and you saw what happened. That whole process was aided by Art Harvey, you know, who is still the county clerk at this moment, and all the shenanigans that went on with
for
that.
A couple more weeks.
Right. That's right. That's right. So one of the things that happened today is I got up and announced it before the Courier did. Hey, I'm just that competitive, that we had run that clip last night showing what it was that Cheryl said. And as Mike indicated, and we're going to show you the tape, not tonight, probably tomorrow night or the next one, of their reaction. It was not very positive, and they said the things that you would expect them to say. Obviously, you don't understand, Mr. Matthews. Yeah, you know, after all these years, I still don't understand anything, nothing at all, just blathering. Probably do sometimes. What's another one that they said, Mike? You're afraid of just discussing things.
Oh, yeah. Listen, that was just, that was just diversion from, they would have been better off just going, and not even responding to it. But nothing tells you you've hit a nerve like a energetic response, and Keith gave one.
Okay, so we've had another energetic response. It just happened today in the little back room. I was really wondering what on earth is this thing that's going on the agenda that says, first it said public relations with Wally Hicks. Wally Hicks, public relations. And then it said, then they started posting it as communications. When I say started posting it, it's been posted for 3 different meetings, but it keeps getting postponed. Communications. Now, communications, you would normally think, if they're obeying the law and giving you an idea of what's going to be discussed, which would be nice, unlike matters from commissioners, right? If it's going to be something that you can make any sense out of at all, communications, you would think, would be about what? The guys from IT talking about the telephone system? There was a previous item several months ago called communications. It was about their telephone system. I would submit to you as our audience that it would be more open government if it said new telephone system. You might have somebody show up that's interested in telephone systems. Instead it said communications, right? Well, this one said communications. Wally Hicks. Wally Hicks. Why is the county legal counsel bringing forward, because they're saying that he did it, this item about communications? Where did this start? And we're going to tell you what it's about. It started right after the Oregon Government Ethics Commission finally responded and was looking through the documents that were supplied by Sandy Casanelli and myself about the county commissioners breaking the Oregon public meeting law that they swore to uphold. It's against the law. They're lawbreakers. Right around that time, apparently, according to the narrative they give us now, Simon Hare talked to Wally Hicks. Wally Hicks, the legal counsel, about this legal issue. How can we get our happy, positive story out there? Because there's some kind of internet stuff that's going on out there and Facebook stuff that's making us look bad. Mike, who do you think they're talking about there, bud?
Gee, I don't know. Could be anybody.
Could be anybody, right. And so Wally Hicks then was tasked with trying to find some way that the county commissioners can counter our nightly show.
Well, goodcounty.com, I believe, is taken.
That's correct. Now, this is following the advice of a couple different people who said, why don't you get your happy, positive story out there? Now, who the heck is going to write that? Because think of all the stuff they'd have to make up. I know who could write it for them. It would be, who's my favorite city councilor? The guy that always makes up stories. Not Dan DeYoung. He just can't get the facts straight. It's not the mayor.
Roy Lindsay.
Roy Lindsay. Roy Lindsay could make it up on the spur of the moment. Why, the happiest thing just happened the other day. Why, people came up to us and were telling us, Cheryl Walker should be good at this. Why, people are coming up to me in the supermarket and they're begging me, please, please, no voters pamphlets. Right. Well, they're not doing it. So they talked about, well, maybe we ought to have a monthly column in the newspaper. We just need, see, they're so flummoxed by the idea that Jim Moore is no longer there because Jim would cover up the news. The problem with Eder Campuzano, he gets the stories wrong sometimes. He did, and we're going to tell you about that. But he's actually covering news. He's trying to. And I talk to him occasionally, and I don't try to tell him, I don't feed him the news any more than I do you. I mean, we tell you what happened. We tell you how to go and find it for yourself, see it for yourself without the commentary, just like we did last night's thing. We did do a commentary show, and we diced it up, and we talked about it, but we also published the meeting, that section that they had, so you could watch it without commentary. What do you need commentary for? Well, we like to think it adds something, but maybe you don't want the commentary. That's cool. Go watch it on your own. Have fun. So So I do talk with Eder about this. So he kind of blew this story. They were a day late and literally $1 short. Okay, but we'll talk about that in a moment. At least they're doing something. But without Jim Moore there, who's going to publish their press releases without even reading them? They don't have that service anymore from the Daily Courier. It is no longer their happy newsletter. So
good.
At today's meeting was Colleen Martin from the Chamber of Commerce. She's going to have some good ideas for them about how to paint lipstick on that pig and make it look like it's just a wonderful example of transparency, of keeping up with the law, of like yesterday. Okay, so sorry I'm doing so much of the talking, but this is a meeting I went to. It was the Parks Board. I don't go to Parks Board meetings. Sorry, parks are wonderful, but I'm not really interested in going to Parks Board meeting. But I went with the camera, and I'm sitting there because of one of the topics that was on their agenda. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
And that topic was, tell them, Mike, what the topic was, because we've talked about this.
Well, essentially, they were going to get a briefing from Simon Hare about how to operate underneath the umbrella of the Oregon Public Meeting Law.
Without breaking the law. Simon Hare was going to give them a lecture about this. Yes. I mean, just that on itself is enough to make you laugh, right? But I had to be there to record this. I wanted to see whatever he said was going to be laughable because he's been found to have been breaking the law by the state. And he's going to tell them how to follow it. So I'm sitting there and they're like, oh, well, good. Glad to see you. Okay. How you doing? Everybody knows who we are. And so Simon Hare walks in the door and he looks over at me and he gets this look like, oh, no. Did he not say that we know that he was there to give them a legal briefing about how to stay with the law? So he turns around and walks out. Really? He's supposed to do a report to them and brief them. And so we're all sitting there and kind of waiting. So he comes back in and he sits down next to this guy. And the guy leans over, oh, I understand that you're going to give us some, I mean, the guy's, he doesn't know what's happening in politics. And he says, I understand you're going to give us a briefing about the Oregon Public Meeting Law. And Simon says, no, I'm not going to do that today. So I got work to do for our show, what we played last night. So I thought, okay, since he said that, I close up the camera and I go. Just not to be super rude to these guys, but we've got other things to do. All the way up to the point at which Simon started to walk in the door the first time, they're talking in a quorum about county business before they've called the meeting to order. Simon walks in and he listens just a little bit. He sees me and he leaves. They continue talking about county business in a quorum before they've called the meeting to order. Simon walks back in, sits down next to the guy. They're continuing to talk about, they got a lot to talk about county business before they've called the meeting to order. I got all that on tape. I mean, but why bother, really? Because you have to take him to court. We don't have two nickels to rub together, and that's their only saving grace because they know we don't have any money.
Yeah.
So what kind of briefing was Simon going to give to him? And the guy says, so you're not going to do that. He says, no, actually, you guys have been following the law quite well here.
They weren't even following the law while he was sitting there.
This is our story. Why do we even need to show you any videotape? That's the story. The funniest part is that Simon was going to give him a briefing about what to do. End of story. You've got it from us. That's all that you really need to know.
Yeah, but there is a little bit more to that story, though, isn't there, Dale?
Yeah, there's always more to that story. So, look.
Well, because apparently when Dale got up and left, then Simon did decide to give the little talk on that.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Isn't that delicious? Okay, so we don't know what he said, but does it really matter what he was trying to say to them? Right? It just it doesn't matter. So one last thing before we pick up where we were before. Oh man. Okay, so yes, it's true that that the Daily Courier finally came out today with an article on the front page. They didn't used to do it like this, Mike. On the front page
That's for sure.
about how um, Cheryl's suggestion of 4 little levies was received by the other commissioners, and we're going to show you videotape of that, and we're going to put our story next to the Courier story. Okay, I don't mind doing this. It's going to take a little extra effort, but we'll show it to you just so that you see that if you think now, still, sorry, Eder, that you're going to get the facts from the Courier, you're not. Because here's what Eder had to say about that. He's talking about Simon Hare briefing the other commissioners in that meeting, and here's the quote from Simon Hare. One of his caveats about putting this whole thing out there with an election year coming up. According to Eder, Simon Hare said sometimes you get not good candidates through the gauntlet because they're not on the same page as the proposal. I think what Eder's trying to say there is that Simon is suggesting that not good candidates, which could include me and everybody else but the 2 commissioners that are running, might get through because they're not on the same page as the proposal of the new levy. See, first of all, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that does not make any sense. As a matter of fact, they're more likely to get in running against the proposal than they would running for it or with it.
Now, I have the luxury, because I shot the videotape, of looking at the video to see what was said exactly, which I did. But I knew when he said it that that's not what he was saying. I didn't need to look at the videotape. I'm just looking at it so I can do a transcription for you guys, and we'll give that to you tomorrow or the next day. Purposely vague. That's a little inside joke for those who watch the show all the time. But that wasn't the purpose of what he was saying at all. It's completely upside down, Eder. You got it completely wrong, bud. I'm glad you did the story. Thank you. But that's not what he said. It's not what he said. What he was saying to the commissioners was, if you push this out when you're running, this isn't going to be good for you because you're tying yourself to a levy, and that's not going to work. And what you need to do is you need to keep quiet about a levy until after you're elected. A little bit different in suggestion from Simon Hare about how to get elected and get back into office. Well, maybe you get somebody, some lunkhead to run against you that people would vote for you instead of that guy because he's even worse. Simon Hare has experience with that twice now, with Dave Toller and with Cheater McCheat. What's that guy's name?
Cheater McCheat?
The guy that ran against him this last time.
Oh. Hang on just a second here.
Somebody that nobody would want even over Simon Hare.
He former city councilman.
He also broke state law. He was telling people things that were not on the, and it's against the law. It's really against the law. I mean, there's against the law and really against the law. This guy couldn't obey the law no matter what. Anyway,
Mark
Gatlin was also the choice of the other 2 commissioners, not Simon. Simon actually had come to the headquarters, if there is such a thing, of the recall campaign of Cheryl Walker and was encouraging them to keep up the good work.
Yes.
He didn't like it when I said that at the meeting. Mike doesn't always like it, but I named names. It was Simon Hare who did it. Oh, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I love doing that. Anyway, so no, Eder didn't get the story right. So, but that's one part of the story that was wrong. The rest of it was pretty good, and it was on the front page. They're not used to this kind of thing. And one last note about that. Oh, finally, a last note. One last note about that. How often do you find something that's a major initiative? It's not even on the agenda because they're not following the law, and it ends up on the front page of the Courier. Not on the agenda.
Yeah, not very often. As a matter of fact, up to now, we haven't even seen things that are on the agenda reported in the Courier. I was always amazed to see really earth-shattering stuff at the weekly business session, and I look over and Jim Moore's sitting over there, and not a peep in the Courier, not a peep.
If there's been this tendency on the commissioner's part to say that what you see on tape is not really there, I think that what you saw of Jim Moore sitting in that room, he wasn't really there, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to pick up where we were before with this fellow. Leading into it just a little bit more, the OGEC had a meeting a little bit earlier with a fellow who got in trouble because of nepotism, and they found him guilty. They don't like to find people guilty. They really don't. But this guy, he was on the school board, and he wanted his father to get a position. He wanted his mother to get a position, and he was pressing for his wife to get a paid position with the school board. And he said, well, I don't understand what the problem is. And I just wanted also a free pass to the games. And so what's the problem? And they tried to explain to this guy, he never did understand what nepotism is and why this is not a good thing. He never understood. He got a small fine, okay, and a letter of education. So this is the very end of almost exactly the same case as what happened with the three county commissioners. It should have been fourth with Wally Hicks. And it was 5 members of the Emerald People's Utility District. Sounds kind of socialistic to me, but People's Utility District, PUD. It's the Emerald PUD. And it starts off, as we did when we left this, with all of the members of the Ethics Commission voting unanimously that these guys are guilty in exactly the same kind of case, using exactly the same kind of words as the county commissioners. Go ahead and play that, if you will, please, Mike.
I'll move to adopt the staff recommendation. Virginia, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Cover?
Aye.
Commissioner Golden?
Aye.
Commissioner Hooper?
Aye.
Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Commissioner Tallman?
Aye.
Chair Montoya?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
We have it. Mr. Davis, the staff will be in touch with you here shortly to see, at least with respect to yourself, how you wish to proceed. But I think that's it for now.
So basically what you're saying is I'm guilty of violation of an ethics of executive session?
That's correct, sir.
When I had no control over it.
Well, you did have control.
How did I have control?
You had the ability to get up and leave.
And that would not be representing the people who elected me to represent them.
But it would keep you from ethics liability.
Yeah. Hello.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, well, I just lost about $1,000 by doing that. So.
What a whiner. Did he expect that somebody was going to like open up their wallet and want to ease his pain or something? I don't get that one.
Notice the word that they use,
Silly.
Guilty. That's the same word they used when the Courier called them. It's the same word that they used when I asked them 3 times, really, can we use the word guilty? I don't want to say guilty if it's not guilty. I'm very exacting about this kind of thing. I don't want to say guilty if it's not guilty. And Sandy Casanelli talked to him too. So they gave 5 answers. Yes, guilty. Yes, you can say guilty. They said guilty in this case. Now, I will say a little thing here on tape. You'll see that. And then the commissioners will come in. Nobody's found us guilty. Why, Mike? They haven't even talked to them because they didn't show up. That's why they haven't talked to them, because they didn't even bother to show up. Why, they've not talked to me? No, because you chose not to show up.
Well, and I guess they figured they were going to float right on by, get their little letter of correction, and move on with their lives. And to a great degree, that is what is going to happen here.
That's true, except now they're officially going to be declared. They have been officially declared, but we're going to get this in writing from them even further, that they are guilty. And as we pointed out several times, how do you appeal a verdict unless it's actually made. You can't appeal something unless I would like to appeal the fact that you found me guilty. You can't appeal the fact that they found you guilty unless they find you guilty.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead and let this guy, whoever he is, blather on here. Go ahead.
This was a long time coming from the state because they don't like to find anybody guilty of anything.
Pick the microphone up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. They just don't like to do that, but the evidence was piling up so fast that they just couldn't ignore it anymore. Now in this, Keith Heck says, well, paraphrasing, I'm really not quite sure that I understand what the laws are, except of course that we've told him, and he said in this room 3 times, I know we're breaking the law. And I don't care. That statement by me to the OGEC made a big difference in their finding that this idea that the 3 of you don't know what the law is, you admitted you do know what the law is, but you don't care.
Mr. Matthews is not my attorney. He's not the attorney for the county. He's not an attorney at all. I think the jury is still out on that. So.
Anything else?
Yes.
I'm done.
Okay. As a matter of fact, I checked into it yesterday. There was an ethics commission.
Watch your fingers.
Convened on Friday, and they had a report from one of their inside investigators.
See, it's not a real investigator.
Yes.
No, the ethics commission doesn't employ real investigators.
Yes.
They only employ investigators.
Yeah, I think the ethics commission should know that, you know, and I'm glad that Cheryl said it, because maybe now that Cheryl has said it, they'll take steps to correct that little problem.
There's no problem, Mike. All they need is a public relations person to explain this. Why don't you go ahead and explain it?
Why didn't I think of that?
Explain away. Yeah. That's what they're going to do. They need to get the positive news out about the positive impact of breaking the law. Oh boy, you figure it out. We're paying you for that, aren't we? We're going to pay them. We're going to pay this person to do that. Our tax dollars are going to pay somebody to explain. As Keith Heck said, they've already spent $5,000. You know why $5,000? Because they have discretion over that. They don't have to bring that out in front of the people. Really? So why did you say it, Keith? What a stupid thing to say. They've already spent $5,000, he made it clear, of taxpayer money to defend themselves against these scurrilous charges that are completely untrue. The ones that they've been found guilty of?
You know, why wouldn't the county then demand their money back after a guilty determination on the part of you know, these 3 people? Why wouldn't they then have to pay that money back?
Because the only person in whose lap that would fall would be Wally Hicks, and he's just as guilty as they are, because he was in every one of those meetings when they did this law breaking. I think he should be held accountable. Oh, we don't like to hold lawyers accountable. He's an elected lawyer. He's the only elected legal counsel in the state. He's the one that told us that when we had videotape of them doing this stuff with the fire ordinances, that we didn't have videotape of them. That didn't happen. Wally, yes, it did. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. You don't have that on tape. I said, Wally, yes, we do. No, you don't. This is Wally Hicks today. As much as I liked him before, he doesn't fall into that same category anymore. When we caught him breaking the law and having a meeting with no agenda at all, I said, you can't have a meeting with no agenda. That's against state law. Oh, you're okay. That's Wally Hicks. Wally Hicks is now on the other side. Remember how Darth Vader started out as one kind of good guy?
And then he murdered children with a lightsaber. Man.
Wow. Okay, all right.
Not that I'm not trying to say that about Wally Hicks now.
But good guys can turn out to be bad guys. He's just turned out to be not on the good guy side anymore. I mean, he's excusing. He was part of this law breaking. He was part of it. He was there. And what did they say to that guy? The guy says, well, what do you expect me to do? We expect you to get up and walk out of the room when they're breaking the law. Did Wally Hicks do that? No. He helped them. Well, Wally, you've chosen your bed. Now you get to lie in it. You get up with fleas. I don't know how that statement goes. Go ahead, Mike. Next one.
Something like that.
Who recommended that they go forward with a continued investigation.
No, they didn't recommend that they go forward with a continued investigation. That was the investigation.
Yeah.
This,
I don't think
this investigator did not suggest to anyone. You've heard the tape.
Yeah, and what difference does it make if an investigator is whatever the investigators? Why would you listen to an investigator? You know, and his recommendations for crime.
She's saying
he's not even a real investigator.
The only defense that she has is that they're going through with a continued investigation. No, they're not going. That's just a flat out.
Yeah,
listen,
that's just
capital letters LIE, like DRAFT. This is LI. There's no continued investigation. The phase that they're in now is how are you going to be punished? Not continued investigation. Okay, they're going to investigate how we're going to be punished. Really? Is that the best that you could do? Yes.
Apparently.
Go ahead, Mike. More.
And a potential contested case hearing. No one has been declared guilty of anything.
Mike, go ahead, bud. No one's been declared guilty of anything, Mike.
I have no comment. I think our previous commentary takes care of that one.
Asked and answered, Counselor. Go ahead.
Yes.
No one has interviewed me. I don't know about the other two, but no one's interviewed me from the Ethics Commission, so the investigation is still underway. Obviously, with his lack of legal knowledge, Dale Matthews doesn't know how to differentiate between a continuing investigation, a potential contested case hearing, and a determination of innocence or guilt. So for his proclamations, I think he's up here posturing at this podium so that he can post something on his website to show what an involved citizen that he is, in fact, with false, misleading, and absolutely untrue information.
Wow. Boy, that's a mouthful.
It's false, misleading, and absolutely untrue, Mike.
Yeah, you know, I hope that when they go for this penalty phase that they are going to show up and they play these videos for them. Wouldn't it be funny if they played this video back and say, you know, what kind of crap were you shoveling down there? You know? I mean, we ought to lay a little bit more, penalty on top of you for just being dense.
You know, we have shared this video with them. And the idea that they're going to issue them a letter of education after they've already said that they do understand the law is ludicrous. I don't think that they have anything else that they're likely to do except just to try to educate them. We've been trying to educate them for years. We've given them physical copies of the law. Wally Hicks, at least at one time, gave them a physical copy of the law and also gave them a little lecture. Now he's excusing everything they do and participating with them.
Well, and this is why I am of the thinking that you are not going to get reform from government.
No.
If reform is going to take place, the people are going to be responsible for the reform. If any action that a politician takes in that reform will be because he is feeling the pressure from the citizens, it's not going to be because they initiated themselves, unless you're talking about a really rare case of a moral human being. And generally speaking, those people don't end up getting elected.
Yeah, where are you going to find that kind of person?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so Mike, let's talk about just a little bit about the role of a free press. Why don't you take part one? I'll take part two. What is the role of a free press and keeping these guys on a steady path, especially in executive session?
Well, you know, I mean, the free press, the only thing there again, we're going back to pressure, because the only effect that the press can have in terms of executive session is just being there, and that keeps these people, you know, inside certain boundaries because they know they can't leave those boundaries because here's a witness. other than that, you can't talk about what you observed in executive session. So, it's not like you can report on it and get some sort of action from the people on those politicians that are, violating the law inside of an executive session.
This was what I was doing for 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they recognized me as being a press person, as being news media. Obviously, I was there for 8 months. After I left, go ahead.
They didn't want those boundaries. They didn't want those rails up, keeping them contained and on the straight and narrow path. So they kicked you out of there. And I guess they weren't very worried about the rest of the press, because generally speaking, the rest of the press didn't show up. As
Sandy Casanelli said just today, because she listed it all. She's really good with lists. She listed it all, and there's like 75, 82, this kind of stuff. And she said, you know how many sessions each of these commissioners attended? And honestly, sorry, Sandy, it doesn't matter exactly what the numbers were, but it was Cheryl least of all or whatever. She said, out of all those sessions, how many times did the press show up? You know what the answer was? 0. There's nobody watching them. And this is why for 8 months, we were obviously the press. We were media. We were news media. Even if for some reason you say, that's not news media, that's commentary media, whatever, okay? Because we do present the news. We present the news before the Courier does, which is obviously grandfathered in their news media, okay? Even if not, we are media. I mean, you're watching something. Simon Hare, when he came in, said, we're no longer going to allow Dale Matthews personally to come in, just me, because he's not with any kind of media. That's not media. That's not media. It's nothing. It's absolutely 0, nothing. And the other two agreed.
Well, I guess they got the idea that they could make a determination as to who media was. They obviously read somewhere that some other government in some other place did that somehow, made a determination about who was media. And if you want to exclude anybody, feel free to go ahead and exclude somebody just by, revoking their media status. That's really a bizarre thing.
So here's a tough question for you and for our audience. When that happened, you know for sure that I put in a request for information that I wanted to find out upon what rule or documentation or precedence or anything else that you can toss somebody out that you've been allowing to be there for 8 months. Under what rule can you suddenly declare that we're not media of any kind? And so here's the tough question for Mike. Sorry, Mike, I try not to do this. How many days?
Now that is a lie.
Now, how many days do they have under state law to answer my request for information? Anybody?
I believe that's, I'm going to say 7.
7 working days. Do you know when they responded?
Hang on.
Never.
Never. Yes. I almost came up with that answer.
So they're breaking state law by not answering.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
I think on nothing.
Yeah. I believe that they have made a determination based on the fact that only certain violations are ones that they're going to be held culpable of, and they just avoid those violations, or they just will avoid those violations for a couple of weeks here. But the rest of them, they don't care about. Like executive session appears to be the only thing that the OGC cares about.
There's one other that the OGC does care about.
Oh, what's that?
Who's declared media or not media?
Okay.
Well,
and apparently they haven't found them guilty in that department of any sort of violation in that realm.
Nope.
So, effectively, these people have carte blanche to do whatever they want to. Just don't violate the rules when it comes to executive session. Well, listen, if you don't have any compunction about breaking the rules, then what's to stop these people from, being at home and having a three-way call? I mean, what's to stop them from doing that? Nothing.
Exactly.
And,
or taking a vote in a parking lot.
right. Yes. So, I wouldn't be surprised that that stuff probably happens all the time and we just don't know about it.
Now we can stop here or we can play the rest of that tape. What's your decision, Mike?
Well,
Either way
there's
is
about
okay.
6 more minutes left on the tape.
Oh, no. Of Cheryl and Simon answering. Just that part. I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's finish that up.
Okay.
As to subpoenaing information, we have provided every bit of information that has ever been asked for. Minutes of meetings, videotapes, everything they've asked for. And so the investigation is continuing. There has been no determination of guilt on the part of anyone.
Now, let me ask you a question about subpoenas.
Mm-hmm.
Why would any investigator, State Investigations Ethics Commission, why would they subpoena records if you're turning them all over in the first place? You wouldn't bother with a subpoena, would you?
Yeah, usually a subpoena is something that you go and get when the person that you're trying to get the information from is resisting.
And that's exactly what they did. And we have proof of that. We have proof that they resisted, not of the resistance itself, but the very fact that a subpoena was necessary means that they were not forthcoming with the information. So what she's saying, she's killing herself here.
Yeah, you know what? I think she just probably assumes that most people don't care and that she's going to be able to put her spin on it and no one's going to double check her on it.
Now they're going to pay somebody to do that for them. You're going to pay. I'm said that wrong. Now you are going to pay so somebody can after this event, Simon came up with a brilliant idea that we need a public relations person that's going to go out there and say happy news stories about us and explain things like why a subpoena means nothing. Because the three of them responding in this way, or Keith just sitting there like a lump, is he really at this meeting? The two of them responding in this way is not enough. Now they need a person that's going to be paid by your tax dollars to explain why it's a happy thing that they're breaking the law.
Yeah.
Next clip.
Good point to reinforce that, if I might, Ms. Commissioner Walker, is that there isn't any, ramifications. If we were guilty, there would be something as far as sanctions are concerned, and that hasn't been determined, I think, by Mr. Matthews' own testimony. And so, without that, it's pretty evident that there is not a guilty verdict in this, or innocent. It's just
if there was any violation, and it's not a guilty as far as a crime. If there were any violation, there are negotiated type things of whether it's a sanction, whether it's a monetary or a letter, but we aren't even to that point. As I said, no one from the state has interviewed us. We've not had any opportunity for a hearing as yet. I understand that may be the next step. So anyway, his protestations about being any member of this board being pretending guilty of anything are absolutely false.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
That's
how we're treated.
Falsehoods.
Yes, absolutely, completely inaccurate. And obviously, he doesn't know. He's not even a lawyer.
Yeah, how was he able to make that determination without being a lawyer?
I'm not even a lawyer that's paid for by county money.
Oh.
I'm not even part of the $1 million of staff that's supposed to, and Wally Hicks, that's supposed to keep them out of doing this kind of stuff, and he's not doing so. So, hey, if Wally's going to skate, why shouldn't they? Well, okay, Yahoo, there you have it. That's where we are at this moment. And so we'll find out coming up next month, probably, what the penalty phase is going to include. We're not expecting much. But I would imagine that they're going to say, this is old news. This is repetitive, Mr. Matthews. Why? We don't need to go over that again. Oh, yes, we do. No, we don't. No, we don't. There's a rule on the wall that says no repetition of any kind. Let me repeat that. No repetition of any kind. In fact, I'm going to repeat it to you again. No repetition of any kind, Mr. Matthews. We're done with this issue. We never want to talk about it again. Yeah, I got that.